fact, at one point we had an app that said it's 72 and sunny, and across the top it said tornado warning,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday night. It is Tuesday night with the one and only Ben Stowe. Good evening, Ben.
Good evening, John.
It is that time of the year where the birds are singing, the trees are greening, and everything's beautiful, and we're outside having fun. Yet sometimes it's probably not the most safe spot to be for us.
April showers bring June tornadoes, right? So.
Isn't that the truth? And this past weekend, you had an instance. And I guess, we've been hearing that there have been instances going on all over the upper Midwest, of course, this summer so far with the severe weather. But you had some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, we were doing a large outdoor festival, a medium-sized outdoor festival, but with a roof system in the wind, our gear, our PA, the band's gear, and more importantly, a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And this isn't newsworthy. It shouldn't surprise anybody that there's weather in the summer, yet it does. Some people are just woefully unprepared, and they say, oh my gosh, I didn't think there'd be a thunderstorm, and you just kind of go, So that's, I think the topic today is preparedness.
For sure, because when you have that many people, I'm gonna pop that picture up of the event from backstage. Okay. You had a lot of people there now. That's at least 35 or 40 people.
Yeah, maybe a couple dozen.
Yeah, that's like all of our friends put together.
I wish I had that many. I wish I had half that many friends.
Yeah, so you had a large crowd of people. And there's even some of the things. I've got a street dance coming up here in July, and we'll have 200 to 300 people. Obviously, not as large as what you had in that picture, but. Having a plan and be prepared. So let's talk about that. What can we do as the entertainment side or as a production side to be prepared for that fall weather?
Well, one of my favorite sayings is, it's not paranoia if people are really chasing you. I was talking with the promoters of this event, and they're wonderful people. They're friends of mine, and I've worked with them on many other things. This was their first foray into a festival, and I was talking to them several months before the festival, and I was talking about evacuation plan and weather plan and all these kinds of scary scenarios. Active shooter, we just had the horrific tragedy in Orlando. These are things, many of the concerts that I do in arenas, we now have bomb sniffing dogs come through. These are some just, brutal realities that we have to face, and putting our head in the sand really doesn't change the circumstances. And so I was talking about these things with them, and they said, well, we really don't want to scare people. And I said, no, I get that. I think it's how you communicate to the people, but nonetheless, you have an obligation, moral, ethical, and probably legal to have a plan. And so fortunately, I didn't have to invent the wheel here. I consulted a book that we've seen on this show a few times, that being the Event Safety Guide. I consulted some friends of mine who were instrumental in its creation, and this was born out of some real tragedies. The stage collapse in Indiana for the Sugar Land concert, and the Station nightclub fire in Rhode Island. And it's a really good resource. So I didn't have to invent the wheel, but I gave them some food for thought. I loaned them my book, and I said, here, use this to develop your plans as you have thousands and thousands and thousands, 10,000 people over 105 acres. You better think about all the probabilities. And like I said, you might think you're being paranoid, but the one you don't think of is the one that's probably going to sting you the most.
Yeah.
And so not to get long-winded and carried away, but the area that I took a narrow and specific interest in was the PA and the roof system and that sort of thing. I didn't take a personal accountability for where these people would go, but I took it upon myself to make sure that we had a safety perimeter so that if the roof collapsed, it wouldn't hit them.
Right.
In other words, I don't care where you go, but you can't be within this perimeter,
Sure.
because if this thing comes down, it's going to land on you and you don't want to be there, Anyway, so.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a couple more pictures here for those who are wanting to get a feel for it. So let's kind of talk about, because I was watching your Facebook feed as this was kind of going on, and because it was.
Well, I'm happy to report that we had a plan and we executed it and it worked well. And so when the worst of the storm was hitting, we really had nothing else to do except sit in the bus and update Facebook.
Let's see. I'm going to go to. I don't want to go to one of the storm pictures. Let's go to the cloud. We've got the cloud coming in from behind there. I don't remember if that was one of the first ones you put up with. Is this the here it comes again picture?
Well, the here it comes again was I was standing on top of a tour bus and I took a shot over the top of a couple of the semis, our semi and one of the band semis, and it just was a shot of this bright, clear day on the bottom and in this, very dark, ominous cloud on the top. I think the one that you're showing is with the stage, and you see the cloud behind it.
Yeah, that's it.
That was, I don't know if that actually was one of the storms that hit us, but it was certainly an indicator that weather was moving in and out constantly. We had 3 different people looking at weather apps on their phone, which, by the way, are largely useless, and I'll get to that in a second. We had 3 different people looking at 3 different apps, and none of them agreed. In fact, at one point, we had an app that said it's 72 and sunny, and across the top it said tornado warning, or watch or something, and we're like, and you'd see these hourly predictions, and I was actually printing forecasts and posting them up backstage, and I finally quit because they were never right. I mean, things had changed within an hour.
Oh yeah.
And so one of the other things that I did is I talked to the promoters and I said, listen, you've got like 19 radio stations involved in promoting this festival. Have one of them get us a meteorologist on the phone that we can talk to right now. We can talk to a meteorologist in real time, someone who is a scientist of weather, and say, what does this mean to you? And your best estimate, what does this mean? So that we're not acting on what is hitting us, but we're preparing for what is likely to hit us. That's, I don't want to get ahead, but that's some of the things that we did with my plan is we developed specific triggers. When wind speeds reach this amount, we do something, even if it's just start paying more attention, when lightning gets within this perimeter, those sorts of triggers, and everybody understood their responsibilities at that point.
Cool. That's having that list definitely would help when that, especially when you've got all those wheels spinning at the same time.
Sure. Yeah. Like I said, you have people spread out over 105 acres. You have people at Monitor World. You have people in the headquarters RV. You have people in the production office. You have people at front of house. All of my crew has show radios. We programmed NOAA weather to Channel 5 on the radio, and everybody knew they could go there and get the weather report. We urged people not to do that, though, because when unless you were the designated person, because when you do, then you're no longer talking on the communication channels. So again, just communication about all those things in advance to quell both panic and curiosity, and just make sure everybody understands what the plan is and what their specific role is. And we'll get to that in a sec. I'm getting ahead of you again, I think. But.
Yeah. I want to show, let's bounce to the picture. You said this is an LED screen we're going to be looking at, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a panel from an LED video wall, and that belongs to Newsboys, which is, of course, a very accomplished, a very successful band. They've been touring for, 25, 30 years. Packing stadiums and festivals, and that didn't happen at our event. That happened the night before, where a storm came up on them very fast. I don't know. I can't really speak to whether or not what the plan was at that festival or any of that sort of thing. I really don't know the circumstance. All I know is that the video wall came down and there was substantial damage, and their rig landed on another band's rig, and it was. I think the tour manager of the Newsboys, who's someone I've worked with many times, he said very candidly, it was just utter destruction, just chaos. But while we might look at that and say, well, that's a bad deal, and it is. Anytime you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage, it's a bad deal. No one was injured and no one was killed, and that's sort of the same thing that our chart follows, a plan basically designed to first protect equipment, but at certain thresholds, you just say, look, now you need to be somewhere safe, and it's about protecting life ultimately.
Yeah, that's very impressive. But the important part is protection of life and keeping people safe. Let's see, we've looked at, I think it's time to let's take a couple of shots. We've got the picture of the rain, the deluge you guys had up there. We'll look at that, and then video, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the plan and such, because I think people have interest in that. So I'm going to pop up the picture from the front, inside the RV, and then we'll take a look at the video here. So
Sure.
Right now the picture's up. I'm seeing windshield wipers and the stage. Now, kind of give us what happened ahead of this. I mean, I see no one around there. How did you guys handle this?
Well, that's going to segue great into our plan that as the storm began to approach and the probabilities of precipitation, were calculated, the decision was made. Obviously, nobody wants to stop the music. That's why they're all there, is to listen to the music, but nobody wants to get injured or anything because of it either. So, as these certain things begin to happen, and I'm trying not to get into the plan too much, but people go and do their responsible actions to cover the back line, the musical instruments, power down the consoles, cover the consoles. As lightning begins to move within a perimeter, disconnect power to the stage and that sort of thing to minimize, the risk of damage as much as possible. Mind you, you've got, 34-foot tall aluminum towers in the air. I mean, you're a pretty good lightning rod, but by the point that this video was taken and this picture was taken, everybody was off the deck because lightning was within a perimeter. Everybody had to get out. You'll notice that the line arrays are sadly not covered, but to cover those requires someone to climb up that aluminum truss, and not a big deal. We did it a couple times, except that the storm moved in so quickly. And as we looked at our list of priorities, the line arrays are somewhat weather resistant. So we said, let's get everything else covered. And if we have time, we'll get those. And we didn't have time. Lightning moved inside our perimeter. And at that point, we ordered everybody to shelter. And we sat there, rode out the storm, and updated Facebook.
Let's we've got about a 9-second video from the front of the. So we're going to run that right now, so people can see, and they're going to hear a little bit about the radar stuff going on in the background. Okay, now we'll go back to. We'll get the two of us back on here. There we go. So yeah, that was for the Ben's afternoon in front of the RV.
All you can do is sit there and watch. And somebody said, how did you feel sitting there watching, $1 million worth of sound equipment getting, quarter-sized hail and, driving rain? And I said, I felt pretty good because I knew all my people were safe. Mm-hmm. And that sounds cliche, but it's true. I said, you know what? This gear is gear. I felt like we had executed our plan. I felt like we had protected our gear as best we could, given the parameters. But I felt like our plan worked, and I knew all my people were safe. I saw the plan work well. We had some volunteers that were working with us as well, and we indoctrinated them as staff, and they bought into the program, and everybody checked in on the radio, and we knew everybody was safe. And at that point, we just said, then we'll see what happens when the storm passes.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's dive into that plan a little bit and kind of contour it for those of us who are doing some smaller events that could definitely benefit from that.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you what, I've emailed out dozens of copies of what I created, which is based on what's in the ESA. I mean, again, I didn't invent the wheel. I tailored it, to my specific event. And that's one of the things that I'll say is that while I've emailed out dozens of copies of this, don't just copy it, verbatim. All right. It needs to be tailored to your event. And so what we have here,
and then go to full screen here so they can see a little bit better. There we go.
What we have here is the threat. Here we have the alert method, how you're going to be notified of the threat. And then here we have various categories: vendors, front of house, backline, video, audio, lighting, stage, and roof. And, for example, we say, okay, surface winds 20 to 29 miles per hour. Front of house, secure gear, monitor conditions. Basically, so if I'm working in front of house, I say, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do at this point. Just more or less kind of keep an eye on it is really what we're saying. You know, be prepared for what happens if it moves to the next category, which is 30 miles an hour, so on and so forth. And then we get down here to, tornado activity, everybody says immediate retreat to shelter. Listen, you just don't worry about anything. Don't worry about the gear. Don't worry about anything else. You just get safe, period. Number one, get out of there. Anyway, this was posted at front of house at Monitor World, in the production office, in the headquarters RV, and one backstage as well.
Yeah, I'm going to pop that picture up there to show. Right here it is, next to the board, the soundboard. All right, actually, it looks like a lighting console.
That is a sound console. Yeah, that's
okay. Sound okay.
And then it worked out really well that the laminates they gave us for the festival were in a laminated pouch. So, of course, I got my Star Wars lanyard here.
Da, da, da.
So I made individualized versions for everybody, and this one is mine, and this is front of house.
Mm-hmm.
And again, so I don't have all the other people's responsibilities there. I just have front of house. The master list is posted in several places, but anywhere I'm at, this is at. And I'll tell you what, John, it was really neat because as these things started to happen, I saw more than one person do this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They looked down and said, "What? Okay," because everybody had a muster station assigned. It said, "When this happens, this is where you go." And we had some people that were off the clock, taking breaks, maybe taking a nap in the RV. I mean, these are 20-hour days from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. So we had people that were not necessarily clocked in at that point, but everybody understood for some of these threats that they would be immediately called to duty and they would report to their muster station.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the plan worked. Nobody got hurt, and that's ultimately the goal.
Yeah, very nice. Good stuff. Good stuff. If people would like to find the book, now where is that available that folks can order that or get a copy of that? Although it looks a little bit more daunting than probably most DJs want to dig into.
You know what? Maybe it does. And I think the promoters felt the same way when I gave it to them. But listen, Chapter 7 is weather preparedness. It is only 6 pages long. 6 pages long. This book is very complete. And if you sat down to read it cover to cover, it would be exhausting. But I'll tell you what, and by the way, I'm a big shout out to my good friend Randy Baumeister, who, at midnight, it was willing to exchange emails and review these things. He's one of the best in the business, and I know he watches the show. So anyway, shout out to Randy. I told him as we finished our conversation in the wee hours of the morning, I said, you may have just saved a life. And I didn't have to tell him that. He knew that. But, what a great resource. What a great guy. But anyway, this book, you can Google it. You can find it. It's got a price tag on the back, says $50. I mean, gosh, I don't know what you actually can get it for, maybe less. But if it's $50, it's $50. I mean, at what point do we decide that this kind of information isn't worth the price of a steak dinner, Mm-hmm. And it's not my book. I don't make any money off it. But just what an amazing resource, I just randomly grabbed a page, entry and exit of the audience. Again, we have to think about these things. It's incumbent on us. As you know, I'm a licensed electrical contractor, and the NEC, the National Electric Code Book, has a chapter or a section rather on places of assembly. And there's a reason. The old saying, fire in a theater. Anytime you congregate a large number of people in an area, the risks go up. Yeah. And we don't need to go back down that road. We rehashed it earlier with some of the things that we faced in our industry. But the fact is we're there operating as businesses, and we have not only an opportunity, but maybe an obligation to try to protect certainly our staff and the people around us, Like I said, the people at the festival weren't my responsibility. They were the promoter's responsibility, but I felt it was my responsibility to make sure that nobody got crushed by my PA if the roof came down.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. A lot of weight up there. Could get ugly very, very quickly. Great stuff, Ben. We'll get this all posted and such so you guys can check that out. And I'm going to see if I can find a link to where they can go check that book out too. And if I can find one, I'll put that down in the description below so you guys can go find that and check it out. Thank you, Ben. Good information. If this is your first time watching one of the Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe shows, in the description below, you're going to find the link to the full playlist. And that has shows from when Ben and I started back in. Ben, this has been like 2.5 years we've been doing Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe shows. We've got some back when we were younger.
Doing this one, John. I appreciate it. Be safe out there. Making a plan maybe sounds scary, but it's not nearly as scary as finding yourself without a plan.
Yeah. For sure. Plans, very seldom is a plan to ever really cause trouble if you do it and do it well. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. This is Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe with the one and only Ben Stowe. Good night.